build. All right, elsewhere from this past weekend, you had a bunch of great college football action that we've been talking about now for the last couple of days. Finally got the ratings that rolled on in, and just a massive number for Ohio State and Michigan. A massive number for Buckeyes and Wolverines. The noon kickoff last Saturday on Fox, big noon kickoff, 19+ million viewers for Buckeyes and Wolverines. 19.07, largest audience since 2006, second largest on record there for Fox. Was far and away the most watched game by nearly 10 million viewers to show you the power of the game, but nearly 20 million people for that one. You had playoff stakes, you had the Harbaugh, situation, probably providing some intrigue for others as well. But my goodness gracious, that is an absolutely monstrous number, and very cool to see that kind of a show in there for a game of that nature. Just huge number for those two teams.
Yeah, I was one of those 20 million. You were like everybody in this room was. Everybody watched it. It did it was a good game. It had sparks. The first part of the game, though, I thought was really boring. And that's kind of Big Ten football.
Big Ten football. I was about to say Big Ten football.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I try not to judge.
And will that change with the new schools? I mean, it has to with their styles somewhat.
I think you have to. The other schools are going to, you heard Angelique Chingelis earlier say, yeah, these schools like Iowa are going to have to adapt because you can't just bet on the fact they're going to wind up in the championship game as long as you beat Minnesota and Rutgers, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can beat them by scoring 16 points, but you're not going to beat Oregon scoring 16. You're not going to beat Washington scoring 16. Even on a horrible day, you're not going to beat USC scoring 16, Right. So, they're going to have to change. So they're going to have to adapt. The problem is how much can you adapt? Matt Rule said it on our show very well. We have to adapt, but we also have to play an offense that's going to work in Lincoln, Nebraska in late October and November, where the weather is not agreeable to a lot of that. And we saw that's why, I don't think you've seen a lot of teams in the Big Ten, Purdue's gone full spread and Wisconsin's going spread and all that. If you watch how they play call, though, it's a little bit different than spread south of the Mason-Dixon line and we saw it here. Anytime that the weather was not perfect, you asked Art Briles about it and he'd be like, yeah, we don't like that.
Right.
It doesn't translate. So they're going to be these hybrid kind of offenses, the winter spread, so to speak.
Yeah, we'll see a shakeup, though, I think, with some of those new teams coming in. So 10 most watched games this season. Ohio State and Michigan now very clearly the number one at 19.07. The next closest was Colorado and Oregon. That pulled in a little over 10 million, so you nearly had double the next closest game there for Ohio State, Michigan. That's how massive that number was. Ohio State, and those were the only two over 10 million so far as the 2023 regular season. Ohio State, Notre Dame had close to 10 million. Ohio State, Penn State had close to 10 million. See a trend here with a certain team? Colorado State, Colorado had 9.3. Those were your top five right there. So Ohio State and Colorado comprising the entire top five there with their various matchups. FSU, LSU had a little over 9. Michigan, Penn State. Bama, Auburn also had over 9. Then LSU, Bama, and Texas, Bama had in the 8-7, 5, 8-8 range as well. So those were your top 10 games. But Ohio State with 3 of the top 4 spots, including far and away the biggest audience of the year with 19+ million for that game last week. Alabama, Auburn, for what it's worth, as far as just Week 13 goes, that was the next closest. Also had 9.09. Washington State, Washington pulled in nearly 6 million viewers. Georgia Tech had 5.3 million, and then FSU, Florida rounded it out with 5+ million viewers for that one. So, yeah, that was your top 5. But 5 games over 5 million, 2 over 9, and 1 over 19 with the one that I mentioned there.
Jeez, Florida, come on, get better.
They were right there. Yeah.
I mean,
I guess that'll bump that number up. You can at least pass Georgia Tech. That they're a few 100,000 away there.
I wonder, and it was never 19 million, even in the height of both those programs in the 90s.
No, absolutely not. No, that's unique to only a certain few programs for sure. But a very, very healthy weekend for college football. I think you had, when all was said and done, probably 15 to 20 games that ended with 1 million or more viewers, which is very, very healthy. And that's one of the better weekends you'll see, which makes sense with all the stuff that's at stake. But, there you go with that. A couple of other notes here.